Before we get started, anyone interested in ordering Mr. Lindell's 4-CD set, go to metaphysicalarttheater.com. For those in the U.S., you can order physical copies or the digital downloads. For those outside the U.S., you can order the digital downloads by going to metaphysicalarttheater.com.
How you doing, sir?
Just fine. Thank you. And how are you?
I'm doing great.
How's the weather where you're at?
Well, right now we're dealing with overcast, and they're talking about strong winds and so forth coming this way. So we've been getting winds all day, but it's nothing, at least in my area, nothing seems to be being knocked down or anything like that. But we're definitely getting strong winds. So, but otherwise it's doing fine. How about you?
Oh, just fine. Well, it's nice today. It rained Monday and Tuesday, and
Okay,
it rained really good Tuesday.
good,
So our drought will be helped a lot.
good. Like I told you before, I'm always amazed that you can be, as it were, in California next to the ocean and be dealing with a drought. But that's another story for another time, for another topic. So yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
They've had the technology for years, but nobody wants to implement it.
I guess that's it. I guess that's it. But again, we're going to be talking about order, then wait. And we're often told that he who orders her conversations aright will be shown salvation.
Okay. And what you can do is just some of the questions you get, just answer, give me the question.
Certainly.
Okay.
So right now, the question is, what do you think about ordering your conversations aright?
Yeah, that's it. You're saying something. Are you saying it right?
Yeah,
No, it's always up to the individual to either do or not do. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
it is. It is. And it sounds very simple, but I find that a lot of people have a challenge with the do or don't do. So how do we help them get on track in ordering their conversations aright?
Well, what is it that you want?
Okay,
I mean, that's where you got to start, isn't it?
it is.
I mean, what do you want? If you know what you want, state it. I am that.
Yeah,
That's the way it works, isn't it?
it is. It is.
So if you can state that I am that, believing it, because it is so if you say it so. Thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be so. Isn't that the statement?
That is the statement. And so what you and I both realize is that we're always decreeing, whether we realize it or not. The question is, what are we decreeing?
Yeah, right. Well, actually, you're on all the time. So you're actually decreeing all along, every word. So what are you saying to yourself? Because that's who you're talking to. You're talking to yourself. You're suggesting to yourself. Are the suggestions positive or negative? See, that's what we always got to watch. What are you saying, and what does it mean to you personally? Because that's what you're going to be experiencing, isn't it?
It is. It is. You often say that we're told to stand. And somebody recently said, you guys need to really talk about what it means to stand. You say, no matter what it is that you're trying to manifest, you have to stand in that as though it's already your reality. So when you
Absolutely. Yes.
stand, is that the essence of it?
That's it. Stand and see the victory. In other words, you said it, stand by it. That's it. If you said it, stand by it. It's as simple as that. Attitude awareness and imaginational control will give you the ease of just sliding through. But you have to be believing what you're saying. See, that's what's important. You can say all sorts of things, but are you believing it? That's the question, isn't it?
It is the question. And it's actually a simple question, but it's very complex. And what I mean by that, most folks, most people believe that they're believing. But we know that you can ask and also ask amiss.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've done that plenty of times. Yeah. And there's no backing up from it unless you actually come forth and deny it.
Yeah.
Because actually all denial is self-denial. Remember that. If you're feeling you're being denied, it's you denying yourself, because God's not denying you anything. He has not in any way caused you a problem by denying you. Your say is a valid say. You're about saying your valid say morning, noon, and night. Do you know what you're saying with your valid say? Because most people don't. They're talking to themselves morning, noon, night, but they have no idea what they're talking about until they experience it. And then they're saying, well, what happened? Well, you happened. That's what happened.
Now, it's funny because you gave two sides of denial. Initially, you said, deny that negativity, whatever that negative thing is, deny that. But then you said, God says that all denial is self-denial. So there's two coins, or there's two sides of the coin of denial. You can deny yourself, or you can deny that thing which is negative that you don't want in your life. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. What are you looking for? That's what we got to get straight right off the bat. What is it that you're looking for? What is it you want to accomplish? Because you're given to do so, to accomplish whatever, thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be so. There you are. Decree yourself to be what you want to be. And then voice it. I am that. What? I don't know. What do you want? What are you looking for? Because that's what it's all about. What are you looking for? That's what you should be concerned with, isn't it?
It is. So I'm going to play the, as they say, the devil's advocate. I'm talking to you. I just called you. You listen. I'm trying to get some advice. I've heard your talks. I said, listen. I need to speak with Mr. Lindell. I just have to speak with Mr. Lindell. So now I have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Lindell, and I say, listen, my life is in chaos. Everything just seems to be going bad, and I need you to help me get my life on track.
Well, I hate to say it again, but go into silence. That's where we do our best work.
Yeah.
So you go into silence, you state your case, decree it, and let it go. Okay. Let go and let God.
Okay. So I wanted to, again, I'm still on this telephone call with you. I don't know what it means to go into the silence. What does that mean to me as somebody that has never heard this conversation? I've heard you for the first time. I realize that you're a student of Neville, and I'm waiting on this great insight. What does it mean for me as somebody that doesn't understand to go into the silence?
Well, actually, it's kind of simple. Okay. Just shut up. That's all you really have to do is just shut up, shut down, and listen, because you're being talked to all the time, but you're not really tuned to that. You're busy with everything going on outside around you. So being still means you're letting go of what's going on around you, what was going on within you at the moment, to focus on what it is you want to accomplish. I mean, what is it? What is it you want to accomplish? Can you state it? Can you just state it out plain so that DeCarlo and I could understand what you're saying, what you want? If you can do that, then we can help you. But if you don't know what you want, what good would our help be? See, that's what you got to. What do you want? What are you looking for? Because it's in you. That's the reason why you're told to sit in the silence, because it's in you. So you want to hear what you're thinking, because it's what you're thinking you're experiencing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So on my call with you, I just want to be happy.
Then be happy. It's a choice, isn't it?
It is.
Well, then choose it. See, that's just it. People are waiting to be happy. Well, waiting for what? It's a mindset. Can you actually feel yourself being happy? Can you think about things that are lovely and of good report, which we're told to do? And if you would do it, then you'd understand what it is that you're told to do. Be still and know that I'm God, right here with you, right now, omnipresent. I don't know what more you need to know. Do you?
You know, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because the questions that I'm putting out there to you are certainly questions that many of our listeners are experiencing. And as I tell them, you know, that whatever it is that you're giving your attention to, that's what you're going to manifest in your life. And you simply need to begin changing what it is that you focus on. But so many people have given ego mind, world mind, the exterior so much control that they don't even believe that they can control their thinking. So how do we help somebody? You tell them, go into the silence. Go ahead.
That's
You got something.
what
You got something.
you believe. See,
Yeah.
that's where they get stuck. What do you believe?
Yeah.
What do you actually believe? You know, you believe thousands of things, but are you focusing on what you're believing now that you're here asking? What's the question? The question is, what do you want? He tells you, you receive not because you ask not, or that you're asking amiss. And if you're asking amiss, well, that's what most of us do, because worry is the opposite of faith. So if you're worried about something, then you're out. Your conversations are not correct. You can't have correct conversations in that state of mind. So it's your state of mind that's what you're looking for. Your state of mind, because that's what you're doing, being, and having every moment of time, isn't it?
It is. It is. You said something. I want to go back to it because it kind of hedges on what we're talking about here, ordering one's conversation. You said if you're worried about something, then of course, then you're out of the alignment of what it is that you want to manifest. People have to understand that worry, like faith, are both prayers. And so if what it is that we're giving our attention to is being put out of our home, not having enough money, poor health, bad relationships, all of those things become our prayers. And as Mr. Lindell stated earlier, what we have to do is begin focusing our attention on what it is that we want. He keeps coming back to the question, what do you want? Mind is always working.
Yes. Yeah. You're on all the time, morning, noon, and night. You're talking to yourself, you're suggesting to yourself, but do you know what you're suggesting to yourself? Do you know what you're actually talking about? I mean, are you conscious of it? Because consciousness is always being objectified. So, in other words, you're on even when you think you're off. You're on. I mean, all the time. In other words, it tells you every word must be accounted for. That tells you right there, you're either on or you're off right there. Every word must be accounted for. You can take it from there, but that's the statement, isn't it?
It is. And you said something in the course of making that statement. You said, listen, consciousness is always being objectified. So even when we think that we're not bringing about a result, because listen, we're watching a program or we're listening to somebody give us some negative self-talk, or whatever is going on, that thing that you think that's not being played out is in fact being played out if you've given it your attention, even in a small way.
Yes, that's it. What has your attention has your life. So wouldn't you think that paying attention to the things that you want would be a wise idea?
Yeah.
rather than sitting down and going over all the things that are troubling you.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what people do. I've had people tell me, well, when I sit in the silence, all I do is just worry about the things that are on my mind. Well, yes, that's true. That's the way it does work. But you have a say, a valid say. You can choose to say different, because you're either the one choosing or you're being chosen by the world around you. I mean, they're waiting in the wings to jump right in and guide you in their direction. But what is your direction? Do you have a direction? Do you know where you're going? Do you know what you're doing? Because you can know what you're going to be doing. You can know where you're going to be going if you will be involved in the conversation that tells you that. In other words, what we're told is think only on things that are lovely and of good report. Now, if you're doing that, that's what you're receiving. And if you're not receiving it, well, then you're not doing it, right?
Absolutely. I like that you gave the example of the person that says, listen, when I sit in the silence, the only thing I do is think about all the things that I'm worried about. And
Yeah.
what Mr. Lindell just basically told you was, listen, you have to begin exercising that muscle. Yeah, at first it's going to start off like that, but he says, then think on what's lovely and of a good report. So as you begin to make that your practice, see, everybody wants this stuff to just happen immediately. It doesn't, not without exercising the muscle of imagination or faith.
Well, I can tell you, I've been at this 40 years and I'm still waiting. No, it's what has your attention. That's where you're going. That's what you're doing. That's what you're having, isn't it?
It is.
Well, what are you focusing your attention on? If you know what you're focusing your attention, and you do focus your attention an awful lot on things you really don't want to be involved with, but you do so, and then you wind up involved, and then you wind up going to church and crying to God, well, what did this happen? Well, you're told it as you think you are. Can't you think better? Can't you come up with a better idea? I mean, but you have to believe it. And that's what people say. Well, there's the catch. You have to believe it. Well, you believe something, you believe a lot of things. But and to tell you the truth, I'd say possibly half of everything you do believe is false. But you have to know that. You have to sit and see where you're actually leading yourself, because you are doing so. And is it you leading you, or is it the outer conversations with other people that are leading you? Because look, it's either your choice or you're taking it from somebody else. And that's what you'll wind up experiencing, what somebody else says, if that's what you're listening to. Listen to yourself and listen to yourself. You're talking to yourself all the time, but are you listening to what you're saying? Because it's going to be prominent in your world of experiencing. So choose wisely, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. You're giving them a lot, and I love it. I love because, see, there's people that are listening to these talks and they're getting it and they're catching themselves. So when that negative thought comes up, they're like, that's not what I want to think. And they're catching themselves and they're replacing it, and they're doing it over and over and over again. And the wonderful thing is now they're getting results.
Yes, yes, that's what you want. You want results, and you getting results from anything you think feelingly about. You're getting the results of that. So if you're choosing what you're thinking about, then you're okay. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes back to the choosing. The choosing is, let's be more purposeful in what it is that we give our attention to. And for me, my change begun when I started taking in new information. I started listening to positive messages. I started reading the Bible. I started listening to positive music. When I started pouring positive stuff into me, then that's what started coming out.
Yeah, that's it. As within, so without. And you're told that your life is how you are within. That's what your experience without. If you change the conversations within, then you'll change the action without. Look, we're either making a case for or making a case against. That's what you're doing. Morning, noon, and night. You're making a case for or making a case against. Do you know what? See, you might be making a case against your very life and not be aware of it. Because, like I said, you're always thinking ahead of your evidence, and the consciousness is always being objectified. So if that's what you're thinking, that's what you're going to be experiencing. It's as simple as that. Wouldn't you say?
I would say you said something. You said, listen, you're making a case for your very life. And I don't think that many of us understand how true that is. You know, I've seen people who weren't willing to change their mindset. So, of course, then their life didn't change. And they ended up departing probably sooner than they needed to. So, when Mr. Lindell says, you know, you're making a case for your life, this is absolutely true.
Yeah. You're, like I said, you're on all the time. And every word must be accounted for. If you know what your words would be accounted to, then you probably know where you're going, what you're doing. Because look, we're told very plainly, as a man thinketh in his heart, and not male, female, man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if you know what you're thinking about, then you know where you're at. But do you? See, that's it. Do you know what you're thinking about? Are you listening to yourself? I know you listen to everybody else, but do you listen to what you're saying to yourself? Because how important is it? It's your life. What you're saying to yourself, that's your life. That's what you're going to be experiencing. That's what you're going to be having. That's what you're going to be doing. What? What are you thinking about? It's that simple. If you keep it simple, you'll probably remember it. And like I said, if you remember it, you might even do it. But you do have to remember it, don't you?
You do. I want to touch on what you said. You said, listen, whatever you're saying, that's what has your life. Now, understand this, creators. You may say, I can't afford this. Or, you know, I'm not feeling good today. My health is bad. Nobody loves me. Understand all of these things that we're saying moment by moment is building a case, as Mr. Lindell calls it. So the case, is it for you or is it against you? But you have to begin becoming aware. This is where going into the silence begins to pay off. Even in going into the silence, even if it's your self-talk in the silence is negative, now you at least are aware that your self-talk in the silence is negative. So if it's negative in the silence, can you imagine how negative it is when you're not in the silence? And so as you continue to practice going into the silence, just because you're aware, you can start casting down negative self-talk and replacing it with positive self-talk. And that only happens over time of continuously going into the silence.
Yes. The fact that you're on all the time should be right here, right in the front of your mind, because that's what you're going to be experiencing. Just think of it this way. What you're thinking about now, you will be experiencing. If it's lovely and a good report, oh, wonderful. Then it'll be lovely and a good report. But if it's not, you see, you'll still be experiencing it because that's what you're thinking. Thinking feelingly is the answer, but feeling what? What are you thinking feelingly about? And when I say feeling, that means how do you feel about what you're thinking and feeling? Or do you actually think about what you're thinking and feeling? Because that's all we're trying to get you to do is just think about what are you thinking and feeling about, because that's your life, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I like that our goal again is not to tell you what to think, but that you think. And since you think, why not think of lovely and of a good report if that's going to be the out picturing in your world?
Yeah, right. As you think you are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's scripture says that right out. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Are you experiencing what you want to experience? If not, well, then you're not thinking right. It's very simple, isn't it?
You said, as you think you are, and that's what you're experiencing. This is it. I mean, in his simplicity, in him giving the message, he's letting you know how simple this stuff is. Many people are giving you all these tools and formulas and so forth that are really confusing you. But simply get this, if it's showing up in your world, you've played a major part in it showing up in your world. And in order for you to remove that thing that's showing up in your world, you simply right now, as Mr. Lindell stated, have to begin thinking differently.
That's it. You're on. That's all. That's all I can tell you. You're on, and you're thinking feelingly, and as you think you are, seems to me you can change it all pretty simply, and you can. But you see, what people don't realize, you take someone 40, 50, 60 years old, they've had a lot of experience of life that's all in there. And you have to wade through that to get to the point to where you're doing the thinking now, not what you have thought, but what you're thinking right now is going to be your experience. Maybe not tomorrow, but it'll be there. It'll be there. As you think you are, that's as simple as you can make it. And that I'm with you always. I'll never leave you. Omnipresence tells you that I'm right with you right now. I suffer with you, but you behold me not, God says. Well, why? If he's suffering, you're suffering too. He can handle his suffering, can you? No, we just play games with ourselves. If you're not paying attention to what you're thinking, then you're just playing a game with yourself. And someone, the question, why me, why this, why now, is answered if you just look at what you're thinking. That's why it is, isn't it?
It is. It is. That's a hard pill. I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, responsibility, because in looking at what it is that we're thinking and holding ourselves accountable for our thinking, it's a very hard pill to swallow, to just take that on and take ownership. But of course, it's the place of power.
Yeah. And you do have the power because he told you you're operating the power, not a little power, the power. So what are you doing with the power you're operating? See, that's what people don't believe. They don't believe they have any power. And actually, that belief comes because you have all the power.
Yeah.
And you're not using it properly, because if you're not happy, then you're not using the power in your own behalf. Look, it's what you're thinking and feeling. That's what you're doing, being, and having. That tells you the whole story, doesn't it?
It does. It does. You said something, you said about the experiences in life. You said, sometimes we have 30, 40 years of programming. And with that, then you got to kind of trudge through that programming. And what we've done with that program, it's not our fault. It's because of this is how we've been programmed. But in that programming, we've taken the programming as reality. So the challenge is making a shift in the program. And so what we're telling you is contradicting much of your programming. And some of you are fighting against what it is that you're hearing about taking on responsibility of your thoughts. And again, I understand that that's old programming, but only thing that we can ask you to do is test it for yourself. Begin changing your thinking and seeing if results follow.
Yeah, that's it. It's as simple as that. If you just keep it that simple, it'll work for everybody. And it does work for it. And as a matter of fact, all of it works for you if you recognize it. And you're told, well, what were you left? You were left a remembrancer. So there's something you must remember. What would it be? Lovely and of good report. That's what it is. You're not thinking lovely and of good report. If you're thinking otherwise, then you're experiencing otherwise. Just be aware of what you're allowing yourself to entertain yourself with, and you'll see where you're going, what you're doing, and how it's happening. You're setting the pace. You understand? Everyone is setting their own pace by their own conversations. Listen to them, because that's the only way you're going to find out what you're doing, is listen to yourself. Not what's going on around you, but what's going on within you, because that's what you're going to be experiencing.
Yeah. You said that they were setting the pace, and I think that many of us, especially when we start learning these principles, we want to make it a sprint, but it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we have to build ourselves up for the endurance. If you think that you're going to just get this information and all of a sudden your life is just going to be changed overnight, there's going to be those changes that happen overnight, but there are going to be some other things that are going to take a little bit more time, and you have to be patient with yourself.
Well, it's you. In other words, it's not about worthiness. I mean, thank God it's not about worthiness, because it says right off, none is worthy. So, in other words, if you're not worthy, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? What are you adding to your life by your thinking? Or what are you taking away from your life by your thinking? Because you're always thinking, but about what? That's all you have to question yourself. About what? What are you thinking about? Is it lovely? And if good, and if not, why not? That's what you're going to be experiencing. I mean, I'm trying to make this. I'm trying to make this first person present tense experience, because that's what it is. You are doing a first person present tense experience. But what are you experiencing? You're experiencing what you're talking about. What are you talking about? That's what you're going to be experiencing. That's what you're going to be having, doing, being. You're on all the time, and you were already given. Choose this day. If you can't choose better, well, yeah, you got a problem. That's a problem, isn't it?
It is, and it goes back to, you talking about your self-talk and choosing better. And I know for myself, there were times and still times that I fight for my limitations. So even though I know these things are holding me back and somebody's expounding to me, the art of desired change, I'm sitting there wrestling and fighting, trying to defend myself, or, we talked about self-justification. Um, and as long as you're in that place, you're not in a place to receive.
Let go and let God. He told you, if you turn to me, I'll turn to you. If you deny me, I will deny you also. So, in other words, he has given you permission to route the course, whatever it is, good or otherwise. That's what you'll be doing, having, and experiencing. And you're doing so based upon your own inner conversations. It's not anyone else's fault. We're not talking about fault. We're not talking about other people's problems. It's what are you thinking? Do you know what you're thinking generally most of the time? Because that's your life. I mean, that is your life, isn't it?
It is. It goes back to the scripture that you often quote and that we started with. He, she who orders his, her conversations aright shall be shown salvation. And of course, we know that salvation is whatever it is that you desire at the moment.